The wind howled across the jagged cliffs of Erythra 9, carrying sharp grains of red dust that cut at the skin like tiny knives. Storm clouds twisted overhead, heavy and dark, reflecting the chaos of a planet struggling to survive. Humanity's settlements clung to narrow ledges and caves, patched together with metal and energy shields, but even the best engineering could not stop the planet's fury. Lightning crackled across the sky, striking barren spires, and somewhere in the distance, a low rumble hinted at the tremors shaking the ground. Dr. Miles Caro trudged through the storm, his boots slipping on wet rocks. His medical pack was heavy, filled with supplies that might save a life, or two, or possibly be useless if the next tremor swallowed him first. He was tired, more tired than he could remember being, but exhaustion did not matter. People depended on him. Humanity had survived wars on other planets, alien diseases, and environmental collapse, and it had survived because people like Miles refused to quit. He glanced at the emergency beacon flashing ahead, a faint, greenish glow cutting through the storm's gray. Someone had sent a distress signal from a ruined outpost. He didn't know who, or what he would find, but the code was clear, life was at risk, and he was the closest human who could respond. Without hesitation, he moved faster, slipping and sliding, muscles burning with cold and fatigue. Every second counted. As he neared the outpost, the shape of the ruined structure became visible through the rain. The walls were twisted, metal bent like paper, and smoke curled from fissures in the floor. The place was barely standing, yet the beacon still pulsed. Miles's heart quickened. Something, or someone, was still alive inside. He ducked through a broken doorway, scanning the shadows. The interior was dark, soaked with water from the storm that had found its way through every crack. Rubble littered the floor. Then he saw it, a small, quivering shape huddled against a fallen beam. At first, he thought it was an injured animal, some alien creature caught in the ruins. "Hello," he called softly, keeping his voice calm despite the pounding of his heart. The creature lifted its head. Gold scales shimmered faintly in the dim light, and the eyes that met his were wide, intelligent, and terrified. Then, impossibly, a voice broke the silence. "Help, please." Miles froze. His mind raced. Dragons were known in legends and in rare scientific reports on distant planets, but this was real. A living, breathing, talking dragon, trembling like a child. The words hung in the air, fragile and pleading, and something deep in Miles's chest clenched. He could not leave it here. He would not. Humanity had learned to survive not through avoidance, but through courage in impossible moments. He stepped closer, careful not to frighten the creature. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you. I'm here to help." The dragon's wings shivered, tiny claws digging into the stone. I'm alone," it whispered. They are coming." Miles understood immediately. The creature wasn't just injured, it was in danger. Other dragons? Predators? Or something worse? He had to act fast. He reached into his pack, pulling out a small medkit and makeshift bandages. The creature flinched at the movement, hissing softly, but he spoke gently, reasoning as he always did with terrified patience. "I can help you," he said. "But you need to trust me. Just a little." The dragon's amber eyes flicked around nervously, as if scanning for threats. Miles noticed a faint pulse of heat radiating from its chest, subtle but powerful. It was emitting energy. That energy would attract predators, he realized with a shock. The storm wasn't the only danger. Something intelligent, was drawn to the creature. He worked quickly, cleaning small cuts on its forelimbs, murmuring words of reassurance. The dragon trembled less, but every instinct screamed danger. Miles could feel the tension radiating from it, a living, breathing signal that shouted, "Run or die." He had faced fear many times before, but this was different. This creature could sense more than humans. Its fear was primal, yet intelligent. He had to match that intelligence with his own courage. A sudden crack of metal echoed from above. Miles looked up. Part of the outpost roof had begun to collapse, twisted by the storm. Dust and pebbles fell around him. The creature's eyes widened in terror, and it let out a soft, panicked hiss. "We have to move," Miles said urgently. He lifted the dragon gently, feeling its trembling body against his chest. Its scales were surprisingly warm, the pulse of energy under his hands almost like a heartbeat he could feel in his own chest. Every step was dangerous. One slip, one misjudged movement, and both could fall to certain death. The storm raged louder, wind whipping through the broken walls. Miles's mind raced, calculating paths, estimating weight, finding footholds. Every instinct, every ounce of human ingenuity, focused on survival. He realized then that this was not just about saving a creature. It was about proving, once again, that humanity could rise against impossible odds with courage and determination. As he stepped carefully toward the storm-blasted cliffs outside, a shadow moved in the distance. Something huge, wings spread wide, circled above the ruins. Miles felt his heart skip. The dragon stiffened against him. Whatever it was, it had sensed them. And whatever it was coming closer. Miles tightened his grip on the dragon. "Hold on," he whispered. "We're getting out of this. I promise." Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the approaching figure. Miles realized the storm was only part of the danger. Something far more deadly was coming, and he had to outsmart it if both of them were to survive. Miles's heart pounded as he sprinted across the cliffside, the baby dragon clutched tightly against his chest. Its small wings flapped nervously, scraping against his arms. The storm raged around them, wind tearing at his jacket, lightning slicing the sky, and rain turning the rocks into slick blades. Every step required perfect balance. One mistake could send them both tumbling into the jagged canyon below. From above, a shadow moved with terrifying precision. Massive wings beat the wind, and the dark outline of a Crython, a predator the size of a small building, glided effortlessly through the storm. Its glowing eyes locked onto the dragon. Miles felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. These creatures were faster, stronger, and smarter than anything he had faced. He couldn't outrun them forever. "Stay calm," he whispered, though his own voice shook. "We'll make it." The baby dragon, which he had named Solix, let out a small, distressed hiss, and Miles felt the heat pulse beneath its scales. That energy, it wasn't just warmth. It was a beacon. The Crythons could sense it, track it. That pulse could save them, or doom them. Miles spotted a narrow ridge ahead, partially shielded by overhanging rock. It was risky, unstable, but it was their only chance. He adjusted his grip on Solix and leapt onto it, sliding along the edge, feeling the ridge wobble beneath their weight. Rocks crumbled, sending shards tumbling into the stormy abyss below. Solix pressed closer, claws digging into his shoulder. The Crython swooped, claws outstretched, and Miles dodged instinctively, rolling to shield Solix as the predator scraped the edge with talons sharp enough to tear metal. Sparks flew where the claw hit exposed rock. Miles's breath came in ragged bursts. Each movement required split-second calculations, weight distribution, speed, and the dragon's instincts. He realized that survival wasn't about luck, it was about using every ounce of human intelligence to outthink a creature far superior in raw power. Miles slid behind a jagged boulder as the Crython circled, growling a low, vibrating sound that echoed across the cliffs. Solix's wings twitched, its small body tense. Miles looked down at it. "I know you're scared," he said softly. "I am too. But we have to be smarter. We can do this together." The dragon hesitated, then emitted a soft, melodic hum. Miles felt it resonate in his chest, a strange communication. Solix's pulse of energy shifted subtly, almost like a signal. It was faint, but Miles understood, the dragon could guide him, warn him of danger if he paid attention. For the first time, the human realized that their survival relied not just on courage but on partnership. They moved along the ridge, inching closer to a small cave opening. Miles's mind raced, analyzing the terrain. The cave offered shelter, but the entrance was narrow. If the Krithen followed, they would be trapped. He needed a plan, something fast, something clever. Glancing around, he spotted debris from the ruined outpost, twisted metal, broken support beams, and energy cables. An idea sparked. He could rig a trap, use the storm and the environment to their advantage. He shouted softly, "Solix, when I say now, use your heat pulse." The Krithen dove again, sensing the energy. Miles positioned the debris strategically, wedging a long metal beam across the ridge's edge. He counted heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. "Now," he shouted. Solix expelled a sudden surge of energy. The heat pulse hit the beam and the rocks around it, creating a blinding flash and a loud explosion. The Krithen shrieked and veered away, startled by the unexpected attack. Rocks tumbled down the cliffside, forming a temporary barrier. Miles grabbed Solix and darted for the cave. Inside, the storm's roar was muted, but the air was thick with tension. Solix trembled, curling against his chest. Miles set it down gently, examining the small creature. Its golden scales were slick with rain, but its pulse had slowed, almost calming. He exhaled, feeling his own muscles relax slightly. They had survived the first attack, but only barely. Miles pressed his forehead against Solix's scaled head. "We're not safe yet," he murmured. "But we're still here. And that counts for something." As he looked around the cave, he noticed faint symbols etched into the walls, hidden beneath years of dust and rock. The markings glowed faintly in the energy radiating from Solix. His curiosity sparked, despite the danger. Perhaps these ruins were more than just shelter, they might hold clues about Solix's kind, about why the Krithens were hunting him, and about secrets humanity had never known. A distant rumble shook the cave floor. Miles froze. The storm outside wasn't the only danger. Something larger, closer, was approaching. The energy from Solix's pulse had drawn more attention, he could feel it. Every instinct screamed that they were about to face another challenge. Miles's fingers tightened around the straps of his medical pack. He looked at Solix, meeting the dragon's intelligent, frightened eyes. "We've survived this far," he whispered. "We'll survive the next. Together." The rumble grew louder, echoing through the cavern. Shadows shifted near the entrance. Miles's mind raced, calculating options, escape routes, and possible traps. His courage, his quick thinking, and his bond with Solix would be tested like never before. And then, from the shadows, a massive silhouette emerged, larger than the last Krithen, and moving with purpose. Miles's pulse quickened. This was no ordinary predator. It was intelligent, calculated, and drawn directly to Solix. Miles braced himself. Every step, every breath, every decision mattered. The storm outside was relentless, but inside the cave, a more immediate danger awaited, a danger that would push human courage, ingenuity, and determination to their limits. Miles's eyes darted around the cave as the massive silhouette loomed at the entrance. The creature's wings stretched wider than any human building he had seen, casting a shadow that swallowed the flickering light from Solix's energy pulse. Unlike the first Krithen, this one moved deliberately, scanning the cavern with eyes that gleamed like molten metal. Miles's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panic would get them killed. He crouched low, assessing the debris strewn across the cave floor. Twisted metal, broken support beams, even shattered containers of old energy cells, all could be used. He had no weapons, no backup, only his medical pack and his mind. The creature was smart, but humans were smarter when they had to be. This was a test of ingenuity, courage, and quick thinking. "Solix," he whispered, "we need a plan." I can't outrun it forever, but maybe we can outsmart it. The dragon's small head tilted, golden eyes narrowing. It pulsed lightly, a steady warmth radiating from its chest. Miles realized that Solix's energy could be more than a beacon, it could be a weapon. He just had to figure out how to use it safely. He grabbed a length of metal piping and wedged it between two boulders at the cave entrance, creating a crude lever. He attached frayed energy cables from a broken conduit to the pipe, improvising a trap he hoped would amplify Solix's heat pulse. It was risky, one miscalculation and the trap could fail, or worse, harm Solix. The creature moved closer, wings brushing the cave walls, causing stones to tumble. Miles's stomach churned. Every instinct screamed that this predator was not just hunting, they were being studied, tested. But humans had survived worse odds, and Miles had a skill that set him apart, he could think under pressure. Now, Solix, he murmured. The dragon's energy flared, brighter than before. Miles guided the pulse through the improvised conduit, channeling it toward the cave entrance. The metal glowed red-hot, then arced with a blinding flash of light. The creature shrieked, halting in its tracks as heat and sparks licked its wings. It recoiled, and for a brief, shining moment, Miles saw an opening. He grabbed Solix and darted to a narrow side passage he had spotted earlier, sliding past jagged rocks that threatened to tear his jacket and skin. Behind them, the creature roared, a deep, vibrating sound that shook the cave walls. It would follow, but now Miles had bought them time. Time to think, time to survive. The passage led to a small chamber, dimly lit by Solix's pulsing energy. Miles crouched, breathing hard, listening. The roar outside gradually faded, replaced by low, searching noises, Chthons probing for a way in. He touched the dragon's scales gently. You're safe for now. But we need more than luck. We need a plan to stop them completely. As he examined the chamber, Miles noticed markings etched into the walls. Faint, glowing runes. He recognized the symbols from ancient research on dragon communication networks. They weren't just decorative, they were instructions, warnings, even traps. Solix's energy made them visible, revealing patterns humans could read. Miles's mind raced. If he could understand the markings, he could predict the creature's behavior. The symbols suggested a network of energy nodes across the cliffs, ancient dragon mechanisms that could be triggered to create barriers or diversions. Human brains, paired with Solix's unique energy signature, could manipulate the nodes. He realized that the fight wasn't just survival, it was a puzzle, one that humans could solve if they stayed clever, brave, and precise. He spent minutes decoding what he could, Solix guiding him with small hums and pulses. His heart pounded, but determination sharpened every thought. They couldn't outrun all the Chthons, they had to outthink them. Humans had always survived where others failed because they used reason, ingenuity, and courage. A sudden tremor shook the chamber, making loose stones fall. Miles grabbed Solix, who hissed in alarm. It's okay, he whispered. We can do this. We have to. Outside, he heard the telltale wing beats of multiple Chthons returning. The first creature hadn't given up, it had regrouped, and now more predators were joining. Miles's pulse accelerated. Every moment counted. He had to set the trap, manipulate the ancient nodes, and create a diversion before they were overwhelmed. Miles grabbed the energy cells from his pack and rigged them along the chamber's edges, linking them with Solix's pulsing energy. The plan was simple but dangerous: lure the Chthons into the trap, amplify Solix's power, and create a temporary barrier that could give them both a chance to escape. The sound of wings grew louder. The creatures were circling, testing the cave's entrances, calculating the attack. Miles held Solix close, whispering reassurances even as his own mind raced with fear and strategy. Every heartbeat mattered. Every second could mean life or death. Then, a shadow moved at the far end of the chamber. Miles's stomach tightened. The largest Chthon, the one that had first cornered them, had found the side passage. It was enormous, intelligent, and angry. Its glowing eyes fixed on Solix, calculating every movement. Miles took a deep breath, feeling fear, hope, and determination mix into a single, sharp focus. "This is it," he whispered. "We fight smart, we survive smart. We are humans, we adapt, we overcome." Solix's scales shimmered, energy pulsing faster. Miles felt the heat vibrating through his hands. The trap was ready. The creatures were about to test their courage, intelligence, and willpower against the ingenuity of a single human and a small, trembling dragon. And as the first Krithin lunged into the chamber, Miles knew that survival would demand everything he had, every ounce of courage, every bit of brainpower, and every instinct honed over a lifetime of impossible odds. The next moments would define not just his life, but the bond between humanity and Solix, and perhaps the future of Erythra 9 itself. Miles's mind raced as the largest Krithin landed in the narrow chamber. Its talons gouged the rock floor, sending shards flying. Wings folded like dark sails, shadowing everything in a shroud of threat. Behind it, smaller predators circled the entrance, their glowing eyes hungry and calculating. Miles tightened his grip on Solix. Every muscle tensed. They couldn't run. They couldn't hide. Survival meant outthinking a species that was built to kill. "Stay close," Miles whispered to the dragon, who let out a soft, trembling hiss. Its energy pulsed faster, brighter. He could feel it vibrating through his chest, a warning and a weapon combined. Miles realized the creatures were drawn not just to Solix's heat, but to his own fear, his hesitation. He had to act now. He scanned the chamber and saw the nodes etched into the walls, the ancient dragon network he had partially decoded. They were real. Solix's energy could activate them. If he could manipulate the nodes, he could create barriers, diversions, even traps. But doing so under fire, with the largest Krithin bearing down on them? One wrong move and both would die. Miles grabbed Solix, sliding along the chamber's edge to the first node. He pressed his hand to the glowing rune, feeling the pulse of energy synchronize with Solix's heartbeat. Sparks flared, and a wall of energy erupted across the chamber, forcing the first wave of smaller Krithins back. They shrieked, confused, retreating for a moment. Miles didn't hesitate. He moved to the second node, Solix guiding him with soft, musical pulses. The largest Krithin lunged. Miles sidestepped, rolling to absorb the impact of its talons hitting the stone floor. He could smell the ozone from the energy discharge, taste the tension in the air. Every step, every action was a calculation. One misstep, and Solix would be torn apart. His heart pounded like a drum. "Keep going, Solix," he murmured. "We're not done yet. Humans survive because we don't stop." The dragon hissed softly, then emitted a focused pulse of heat and energy toward the third node. Miles pressed the rune at the same instant, and a surge of force erupted across the cave. Rocks shifted, metal beams groaned, and the energy formed a barrier that corralled the Krithins toward a narrow section of the chamber. The predators screeched, circling, but the space was too tight for all of them to attack at once. Miles's mind raced. They had one chance to turn the tide completely. He noticed the debris from the ruined outpost, twisted metal beams, broken containers, leftover energy cells. He rigged a makeshift lever system, tying the energy cables to the heavy metal and Solix's pulsing energy. One coordinated strike could topple part of the ceiling in the narrow corridor, trapping the predators without harming Solix. "Now, Solix," he shouted. The dragon let out a powerful pulse, concentrated and sharp. Miles pulled the lever, and the ceiling collapsed in a controlled cascade. Rocks and beams tumbled down, blocking the narrow corridor and trapping the remaining smaller Krithins. The roar of the large predator filled the chamber, but it was alone now. Its glowing eyes met Miles's, intelligent, furious, calculating. It tested the barrier. Miles's heart skipped. The human mind could predict, adapt, and improvise, but raw strength and size could still overwhelm. Miles forced himself to focus. He had no weapons, only his wits, the dragon's energy, and a deep understanding of how to manipulate the ancient nodes. He pressed the final rune, combining his own knowledge with Solix's instinct. Sparks and energy arcs filled the chamber. A pulse shot forward, striking the large Crython directly. It screeched, wings thrashing, but the node's energy held it in a stasis field, a suspended cage of light and force. Miles exhaled slowly, feeling exhaustion wash over him. Solix trembled, but the pulse began to stabilize, its energy steady. The largest predator was immobilized, trapped not by brute force, but by human ingenuity and courage, amplified through an extraordinary partnership. The storm outside continued, but inside, Miles felt a rare moment of clarity. The creatures were neutralized, the threat contained. He crouched beside Solix, running hands over its scales, feeling the warmth of life and power beneath. "We did it," he whispered. "You and I, we survived because we were smart, because we didn't give up." Solix's golden eyes glimmered. It chirped softly, a melodic sound that vibrated in Miles's chest. For a moment, the fear, the tension, and the adrenaline fell away, leaving only a profound bond, human and dragon, survivor and guide, courage and intelligence intertwined. Miles looked around at the cavern, at the broken nodes and toppled debris, and realized something important. Humans had survived here before, not because they were strongest, but because they could adapt, improvise, and act when others hesitated. This moment was proof, courage combined with intelligence could turn impossible odds into victory. But the real test wasn't over. The energy from Solix had drawn attention, other forces, hidden observers, perhaps other dragons or predators, might arrive. Miles knew survival required more than a single victory. It required foresight, planning, and relentless courage. He looked at the dragon, energy still pulsing, scales glinting in the dim light. "We've bought ourselves time," he said. "But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning." As the largest Crython struggled in the stasis field, Miles carefully checked the chamber's perimeter. The nodes were stable, the smaller predators trapped, but he could feel that this encounter had changed everything. Humanity's reach, intelligence, and courage had been tested, and proven. Even on a world as harsh and alien as Erythra 9, a single human, armed with wits, bravery, and a bond with an extraordinary creature, could shape the outcome against seemingly unstoppable odds. Miles inhaled deeply, the weight of exhaustion pressing on him. Solix curled closer, trusting, fragile, and strong in ways no human could measure. Miles's mind was already planning the next move, how to keep Solix safe, how to learn from the dragon, and how to protect the colony. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was the promise of survival, partnership, and the extraordinary feats that humans could accomplish when they refused to give up. Outside, lightning streaked across the crimson sky, illuminating a world full of dangers, but inside the cave, two beings, a human and a dragon, had proven that courage, intelligence, and determination could defy the impossible. And the next challenge, whatever it might be, would meet the same human resolve that had carried them through the storm, the predators, and the unknown. The storm had passed. Outside, Erythra 9's crimson sky was clearing, though jagged clouds still clung to distant cliffs. Miles Caro stood at the cave entrance, looking down at the valley below. Rubble and broken nodes littered the ground, a reminder of the chaos they had survived. Solix perched beside him, small wings folded, golden scales glowing faintly in the soft light. For the first time in days, the dragon seemed calm. Miles exhaled deeply, muscles aching, but the exhaustion was tempered by a quiet sense of achievement. He had faced predators far larger and stronger than any human, navigated unstable cliffs during a storm, and survived by relying on nothing but courage, intelligence, and careful planning. And now, against every impossible odds, they had prevailed. Solix looked up at him, eyes bright with intelligence. "You saved me," the dragon whispered, the words soft but clear. Miles felt a pang of emotion. No human had ever been trusted by a creature like this, never been seen as more than prey or competitor. Yet here, in the ruins of a collapsing world, he had earned Solix's trust. "We saved each other," Miles said quietly. "You guided me as much as I guided you." He reached out, letting the dragon press its head gently against his shoulder. The warmth of its scales seeped into him, a bond stronger than any words could describe. In that moment, Miles understood something profound. Survival wasn't just about individual courage, it was about connection, trust, and working together to overcome the impossible. The cave trembled faintly beneath their feet, and Miles glanced toward the stasis field holding the largest Krythan. The predator thrashed against its magical restraint, a reminder that danger was never gone entirely. But he also knew they had bought time, and time was a human weapon. Humans had always thrived by observing, adapting, and outthinking threats far beyond their natural strength. He had proven it here, in a world designed to destroy them. "Come on," he said, scooping Solix gently into his arms. "We need to get to the colony. You'll be safe there, and I can learn more about you." He led the dragon across the rocky ledges, careful but deliberate. Each step was calculated, each move designed to avoid new hazards. The world was still dangerous, but humans were built to survive, to adapt, to turn fear into action. By the time they reached the edge of the colony, the first human responders were arriving, drawn by the aftermath of the storm and the unusual energy signatures. Miles felt their eyes widen when they saw Solix. Whispers ran through the crowd, "A dragon? Alive? Talking?" Miles ignored their awe. He had no time for disbelief. Solix needed care, understanding, and protection. Dr. Caro guided Solix into a secure area, one adapted for the dragon's unique physiology. Scientists, engineers, and medics gathered, curious but cautious. Miles watched as the dragon tested the environment with careful steps, sniffing and tapping its wings, finally settling down with a soft hum. It was adapting, learning, trusting humans to hold their promise. Miles took a quiet moment for himself, sitting on a bench and rubbing his face. The adrenaline that had carried him through the storm and the battle with the Krythans was fading, leaving deep exhaustion behind. Yet even in that fatigue, he felt a quiet pride. He had faced overwhelming odds, used intellect instead of brute force, and emerged victorious. He had saved a life, an extraordinary life, and along the way, proven once more that humanity's greatest power was its courage, morality, and ingenuity. Weeks passed, and Solix became more than a curiosity or a protected specimen. It bonded with the colonists, teaching them about the ancient dragon networks and sharing insights into the predators that threatened the planet. Miles watched as humans and dragon worked together, combining human adaptability with Solix's innate abilities. The colony became stronger, safer, and smarter because they had faced the impossible and survived. One evening, Miles stood atop the colony's observation tower, Solix perched beside him, wings shimmering in the last rays of the sun. The alien world stretched out in jagged cliffs and crimson plains, still harsh, still dangerous, but no longer unconquerable. Humans had survived the storm, the predators, and the unknown, and in doing so, had claimed a future worth protecting. Solix looked at Miles, golden eyes reflecting both intelligence and gratitude. "You humans, you are brave," it said softly. "I will not forget." Miles smiled, feeling a deep, almost sacred connection. This was more than survival. It was partnership. It was proof that humans could rise above fear and face what no one else dared. He thought of the Krythans, trapped but alive in the stasis field. They were dangerous, but Miles knew humanity's approach didn't have to be about destruction. Cleverness, courage, and moral choice could win battles without unnecessary death. That principle, human ingenuity and morality, was as important as the bond he shared with Solix. The stars began to appear over Erythra 9, pinpoints of light in the darkening sky. Miles inhaled the cold, crisp air, feeling the weight of the days they had survived, the storm they had endured, and the predator they had faced. Humanity's story on this world was just beginning, but this moment, the trust of Solix, the survival of the colony, the triumph of intellect and courage, would endure as a cornerstone. He turned to Solix. We did it. We survived. And now we can build something better, together. The dragon tilted its head, wings unfurling slightly in acknowledgement. Miles knew that this partnership was a beginning. Together, humans and dragons could not only survive Erythra 9, they could thrive. And somewhere in the crimson dusk, the universe seemed to pause, acknowledging a truth humans had always known: courage, intelligence, and morality were forces no predator could match. Miles Caro, exhausted, bruised, and triumphant, felt the quiet satisfaction of knowing that humans, even in the harshest, most impossible worlds, could rise, and rise with honor, heart, and brilliance. The storm was over, but the legacy of that night, and the bond between human and dragon, would echo far into the future, a testament to what humanity could achieve when it refused to give up, when it acted with courage, and when it chose to fight, even when the odds were impossible.